Welcome to my abode. Here, every story is like an elixir that awakens the darkest corners of your mind. They call me the Plague Doctor, and my mission is simple. I collect mysterious legends and myths that, like diseases, wander the world, infecting the minds of curious mortals. Today, I will tell you about 3 sinister encounters that happened on Halloween night. They blur the line between myth and reality. Mothman, Slenderman, and the monster from the lake. These creatures may seem like fairy tales, but what if they are real? Watch until the end and decide for yourself. And if you are eager to know more such stories, write in the comments what mysterious creatures or forgotten legends would you like to hear about. I read your every word carefully, and maybe the next story will be about your fear. A group of students from the University of Virginia had long dreamed of verifying one of the most sinister legends in America, the story of the Mothman. They had heard stories about a creature with giant wings and glowing red eyes that appears before disasters. The most famous tragedy was the collapse of the Silver Bridge in 1967, in which 46 people died. Witnesses claimed to have seen this creature a few days before the incident. On Halloween, 4 friends decided to go to the abandoned ruins of the bridge to find out if the Mothman was still there. At first, everything was fun. They joked, took photos, discussed legends. But when darkness finally covered the forest, the atmosphere changed dramatically. Strange signs and warnings. When they got there, they were surrounded by an eerie silence. No crickets, no rustling wind. Suddenly, Mark, the bravest of the group, heard a whisper right behind his ear. "Go away." He turned around abruptly. No one. Everyone's phones were starting to run out of battery, even with full batteries. With flashlights in hand, they walked through the old gaps in the bridge, but their attention was drawn to strange marks on the asphalt. Huge claw marks in semicircles that looked like wing marks. Suddenly, they noticed 2 bright lights in the forest. "Are those car headlights?" Sarah asked. But the lights were not moving parallel to them. They seemed to be following them. And the closer they got, the more it became clear. They were eyes. Huge, glowing red eyes that sparkled in the darkness. Race for survival. Panic seized the group, and everyone rushed to run through the forest. But the creature seemed to be flying after them. They heard the wingspan tearing through the night air, and in each of their heads, the same voice was saying, "You shouldn't have come." Jake fell while running, and before his friends could help him, a shadow with giant wings fell on him. At the last moment, they managed to pull their friend out, but his arm was left with deep cuts, as if from claws. The friends reached the car and drove away at full speed, but when they stopped, they found strange symbols scratched on the hood, 2 wings, and between them, an eye. The next day, each of them received the same message from an unknown number. "You saw him. He sees you. No one knows where this message came from or what it meant." Since then, each of them claims to sometimes hear whispers behind their backs, even when no one is around. In the suburbs of Madison, there is a dark forest that the locals call the Shadow Corner. It was believed that the Slenderman lives there, a tall, thin man in a black suit without a face. According to legend, he hunts people who see him, penetrates their minds, and controls their actions. 2 friends, Lauren and Emma, did not believe in legends, but decided to test them on Halloween. That evening, there was a thick fog in the forest, and the air was saturated with dampness. They walked along a narrow path and laughed, but soon felt that something in the forest had changed. The trees seemed to have become taller and closer to each other, and the sound of their footsteps sounded much louder than usual. First contact. Emma suddenly froze and grabbed Lauren's hand. "Do you see it?" tall figure stood a few meters ahead. Its body was unrealistically elongated, and its head seemed to be covered in a gray haze. It did not move, but both girls felt that the creature was staring at them intently, despite the lack of eyes. The friends began to back away, but at that moment, Lauren froze. Her face suddenly lost expression, and her gaze became empty. "He's already inside my head," she whispered, and suddenly walked straight towards the figure. Disappearance and consequences. Emma tried to hold her friend back, but Lauren seemed to be in a trance. The girl disappeared into the fog, and when Emma ran after her, Slenderman was gone. The next morning, Lauren was still missing. The only thing left was her hat and strange symbols laid out from branches. Since then, Emma claims that Lauren sometimes appears in her dreams and stands next to her bed, silently pointing her finger into the darkness. Blackwater Lake has been the site of rumors of a strange creature for years. Locals talk about something resembling the Loch Ness Monster, a long, scaly creature that occasionally surfaces. On Halloween night, 4 teenagers decided to explore the lake in a boat and record everything on video to post on YouTube. First signs. The water was still, but there were ripples on the surface, as if something huge was moving beneath it. The boat suddenly slowed down, then stopped, as if someone had grabbed it from the depths. Brendan leaned over the side to see what was happening, and at that moment, something abruptly yanked him down. The others grabbed his arms, but something under the water was pulling the guy with incredible force. They eventually pulled him out, but his t-shirt was torn, and there were marks on his chest that looked like huge teeth, unknown at the bottom. In a panic, the teenagers rowed to the shore, but when they returned, they were met by police. As it turned out, one of the local fishermen saw their boat in the middle of the lake, but claimed that he saw a giant tail next to the boat, which disappeared into the water. Brendan did not come to for several days. When he came to, he said that under the water, he saw a giant snake-like shadow with bottomless black eyes. It was looking at me. "It's waiting for me to return," he whispered. To this day, no one risks going out to Blackwater Lake at night. The locals are sure that something ancient and hungry has awakened in its depths.